Whether you realize it or not, the life you will live in 5 to 10 years is built on the choices that you're making today. Every habit, from how you spend, how you save, how you take care of yourself, and the relationships you invest in, shapes your future. Today I'll touch on the daily habits you might want to invest in to gain financial freedom and build wealth. To me, wealth isn't just about hoarding money. A wealthy life is about having the freedom, health, and peace of mind to live life on our own terms. Because at the end of the day, financial security means nothing if we're burnt out, unhealthy, or constantly stressed. In today's video, I'll share 5 subtle shifts that can transform your journey toward a genuinely wealthy life. My name is Karlly. I quit my job last year to build out my other income streams. And on this channel, I share tips on personal finance, on living intentionally, and I also talk about the business side of modeling. I've never really been a proponent of making drastic changes in my life. I like to make small, consistent changes when I feel so inspired. And the key to all of this is the idea of compounding. Just like how investing small amounts consistently can turn into serious wealth over decades, I believe our habits, whether they be financial, physical, or mental, compound in the same way. The small choices we might make today might not seem like a big deal, but over months and years, they can completely transform our lives. And that's why these 5 subtle changes are so powerful. And the first subtle change is to audit your relationships. There's a popular saying that goes something along the lines of, you are the sum of the people you surround yourself with. I believe that the people you spend the most time with and the environments that you are in will subtly, or not so subtly, shape your beliefs, aspirations, and even your habits. I learn from people around me all the time. If we're surrounded by ambitious, growth-oriented people or kind people, we're naturally more likely to push ourselves towards self-improvement and being better people. But on the flip side, if we're constantly around negativity, complacency, or destructive habits, we might also unconsciously start to adopt those types of behaviors too. Our social circle doesn't just influence our mindset, it also impacts our financial habits. If you're surrounded by people who are always impulsively spending or never think about long-term financial success, it's harder to stay disciplined. But if you're around people who are investing, building businesses, or focusing on financial independence, those behaviors start to feel normal and also achievable. All this to say, what feels normal to us is largely dictated by our environment and what we're exposed to. If everyone around you is okay with debt, overspending, and staying stagnant, that also becomes your baseline. But if you're surrounded by people who are pushing themselves and growing and thinking ahead, that becomes your new normal. And I think that shift in mindset is everything. That's why I tend to be very particular with who I spend my time. I like to spend time with people who give me energy, who inspire me and make me happy. I basically want to walk away from a hangout feeling fulfilled and grateful for the connection I share with my friends. This might be a good opportunity to take a look at your relationships and just do an audit on whether you think that the people around you are inspiring, supporting, and challenging you to grow. And on the flip side, who drains your energy, keeps you stuck, or makes you second guess yourself. Your environment shapes you more than you might think. So if you want to build a wealthier, happier life, start by surrounding people who make that aspect feel natural. Personal growth and learning are 2 of the most powerful ways to invest in your future self. It wasn't until I left school that I realized learning isn't confined to textbooks or classrooms. It's constantly gaining new skills, knowledge, and perspectives that directly impact every area of our lives. After I graduated, I quickly realized that no one cares what or how much I learned from school. It was up to me to decide what I wanted to focus on and where I wanted to invest my time for personal growth. And honestly, I think that's when the real learning began. I firmly believe that the more you learn, the more opportunities you create for yourself. Sometimes we don't realize what these opportunities could be until they present themselves. And that's when we realize that the foundation we built, whether it's certain high income skills, emotional intelligence, or maybe general problem-solving abilities, has enabled us to take full advantage of them. For me, learning varies. That might look like reading a book. Sometimes I might watch educational content and pick up new skills. But personally, which obviously may not be the case for everyone, I generally learn by doing. And that's to say, by getting outside my comfort zone and making mistakes and learning from these mistakes firsthand. There's something about doing something and learning concepts or skills firsthand that helps me gain a deeper self-awareness and understanding. Not to mention, it also builds my self-esteem when I'm doing the things that I'm trying to learn. And one example is with YouTube. I could have learned everything about editing, scripting, and what makes a good thumbnail and title, but it wasn't until I actually created videos and got feedback from a growing audience that things were able to start clicking. We all know time is a finite resource. Once it's gone, we can't get it back. That's why how you spend your time today directly impacts your future. The decisions you make about how to allocate your time, whether it's focusing on work, learning, building relationships, or even taking care of your health, those decisions easily determine your success and well-being in the long run. That's not something I always remember, but whenever I do, it always spurs me into action. Perhaps one of the biggest challenges in managing my time is dealing with distractions. Whether it's social events, maybe it's social media, or just life's responsibilities and errands, these distractions can easily derail my focus and leave me feeling unproductive. So for me, learning how to minimize these time traps is crucial for me staying on track. One habit I started to build in the last couple of years to mitigate the distractions that might naturally come up is declining events or social plans I don't want to attend with absolutely no guilt. Part of this goes back to auditing relationships. If I know I will feel mediocre after a social event, I just won't go. I don't think it's worth my time. I can instead spend that time relaxing on my own, working on my business, or partaking in other social plans. And back to my point on compounding, when we become intentional with our time, I think the results we achieve also compound over time. Managing time effectively doesn't just lead to a few quick wins, though it's one of the shifts that may seem like it in the moment. Rather, I think it builds up over the years and sets you up for sustainable success. So whether it's learning something new, improving my business, or investing in relationships, the more consistently I manage my time, the better I feel about the way I live my life. Financial freedom is built over time. The earlier you start, the easier it becomes. Financial planning can be so easily overlooked, partly because we are hardwired to want immediate gratification. I also think there's a lack of financial literacy because it's not taught in schools. At least it wasn't when I was growing up. When we're at the start of our careers, we may not feel the urgency to save for retirement or invest for the future. But if we don't start investing for our futures in our 20s and 30s, we're more likely to face some very tough consequences in our 40s and 50s. Honestly, I only understood the importance of financial planning when I saw what life looked like for people who didn't save for retirement. That realization pushed me to aggressively pay off my debt, max out my tax-advantaged retirement accounts, invest my money in the market, and build out my emergency fund as early as possible. I started doing these things with the intention of capitalizing on compound interest. I have made many videos on financial literacy based on my personal experiences and learnings. Those range from how being financially literate will change your life, to videos on emergency funds, to keeping your standard of living low. Financial literacy and financial planning allowed me to quit my job, buy a business, and focus on learning other skills I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn had I stayed in my corporate job. The key to successful financial planning lies in starting early, or today, and being consistent. It's not about waiting for that perfect time or the perfect amount of money to start. It's about starting where you are, even if it's small. The earlier you start, the more powerful compound interest becomes. I feel like health is one of those aspects of life where we only realize we are taking it for granted when we no longer have it. For instance, I never think about how happy I am that I'm healthy until my throat is sore. Health looks different for everyone, and there are certainly aspects of health that are beyond our control, like genetics or unforeseen accidents. But as far as the agency we have over our bodies, such as how we eat, how we move, and how we care for our mental health, we have the power to create a massive impact on our lives. My personal motivation in investing in my health is simply to maintain a high standard of living in terms of mobility and strength for as long as possible. The best way I know how to do that right now is to stay active, strength train, and eat in ways that make me feel good. I think it's easier to stay consistent in all of this when I have an activity that I love doing, which for me right now is martial arts. Staying active can include any physical activity you enjoy. Maybe it's a sport, or walking, or gardening, or playing with a kid. I sometimes have to remind myself that we don't necessarily have to go to the gym to move our bodies. Regular activity is also very important for mental health as well. Studies show that physical activity releases endorphins in the brain. It promotes better sleep and improves cognitive function, among many other benefits. Whenever I feel stressed, after some movement, I always feel better. Those are the 5 subtle changes to quietly build wealth. Building wealth includes more than just focusing on making money. We can make sure we're spending time with people that genuinely make us feel better. Also, investing in our financial future and making sure that we are setting up the foundation to be financially free can make our lives easier in our later years. And finally, prioritizing our health will ensure that we can enjoy our lives now and continue to do so in the long term. If you liked this video, you will also enjoy this video on the hidden cost of overconsumption, where I talk about how overconsumption wastes your life.